My area within science is computational biology. The most recent lab placement that I got to do was extremely transformational. It was what put me on the path to getting my first publication. I got to meet some great people, many of whom I'm still friends with and would be happy to collaborate with in future. And it was genuinely just a really great introduction to being an independent researcher, which isn't something you get to experience if you just do your course as an undergraduate student. And I was really lucky actually that was funded by the Amgen Foundation. And what that meant for me is two things. One, it meant that I didn't have to worry about being able to afford rent and food and all of those extremely important things. And secondly, it meant that I didn't have to worry about having resources allocated to me by the lab. And what that means in practical terms is that I had a lot of freedom to decide what I wanted to investigate. And that is probably the most important experience, I think, for a young scientist to have.
I'm studying natural sciences, and I'm currently specializing in biochemistry and have a special interest in stem cell biology. So during my last 3 years at Churchill, I was lucky to undertake various summer placements. The first one was in 2020 at the Gurdon Institute here in Cambridge. I was working with John Gurdon, but it was moved online due to the pandemic, so I conducted bioinformatics analysis for the lab. And then this year, I worked at the Laboratory of Molecular Biology, also here in Cambridge. My placement at the LMB this year was supported by the Medical Research Council. Those studentships, however, are very competitive, so I wasn't sure that I would get this funding, and without the funding I wouldn't have been able to cover living costs and undertake my placement. Securing funding is usually very challenging because there's very few opportunities available and they're all very competitive. I personally actually had 2 other labs that I initially wanted to work with, but neither of those opportunities were possible due to lack of funding. I was then lucky enough to actually get the MRC studentship, so I could undertake my placement.
I think it's a real shame if students don't get to experience doing real science outside of the classroom, outside of the lecture hall, just because they can't put up the cash. But I think one of the most important things to learn and to take on board and to develop if you are going to pursue science as a career, as a researcher, is that you are going to have ideas of your own, and you're going to have to decide what you want to investigate, and you're going to have to decide to learn new skills on the fly of your own accord. And you can't really do that unless you have some independence in terms of resources and therefore in terms of funding. I got to publish a paper because of work that I got to do because I could get funding to do it. Papers get published because there's something original there, however small. But also, I think society as a whole benefits if we provide an environment where young people are encouraged to develop and explore who they are as professionals and as researchers. And they need funding to do that.
Please consider supporting the Churchill Summer Opportunities Bursary Scheme on this first ever Giving Day of our college. It would really make a difference for a lot of students here at Churchill, and we'd be all very grateful for your support.